Hello everyone and welcome back to JavaScript lessons on Codecademy. So last time we made our own little adventure game which turned out to be quite fun. So today we're going to be doing something quite new, or at least new for JavaScript, which is looking at functions. Functions are actually really useful and make your code look a lot neater for the future. And they also make it so that you don't actually have to repeat much of your code if used properly. So let's see what we need to do. So programming is simply a way to give instructions to the computer. In the last few lessons we learned about if and else statements. We want to keep learning ways to instruct the computer to perform repeatable tasks efficiently. Because if you make your program more efficient, then it's probably going to also be a lot clearer to read, and your computer is going to have less trouble running it, hopefully, and it's going to decrease your computer's performance less, meaning whatever your program is going to require less resources from the computer, which is a lot better than requiring a lot of resources. So let's see what we need to do. So let's briefly review. Use an if-else to check how fast you're driving. If speed is greater than 80, use console.log to print slow down. Otherwise, use console.log to print drive safe. So that's quite easy. If speed is greater than 80, we need to use console.log to print that, which I will just get rid of a few things and paste that in. And then the same thing here. Here we go. And Control V. So if we save and oops, we've done something wrong. What have we done wrong? If speed is greater than 80, we do that. Let's actually make it clearer for me to read this. Otherwise, do this. So, okay, I don't actually understand what's wrong. Complete the condition in the parentheses on line 4. So we did that. I don't actually know. Do we need... Oh, I see why. We have a use there. That's confusing the computer. There we go. So because our speed variable is 65, 65 is not greater than 80, so it goes into the else, and we get drive safe printed out to our console. So let's move on. So introducing functions. Programming is similar to baking cakes, I guess. Imagine you're trying to teach your friend Jane how to bake many different types of cakes. Each cake takes in different ingredients or inputs, but the bake instructions are always the same. For example, preheat the oven at 300 degrees, mix all the ingredients in a bowl, put contents into oven for 30 minutes, and the output will be a different cake each time. It is tedious to have to repeat to Jane the same bake instructions every time. What if we could just say bake and Jane would know to execute those 3 steps? That is exactly what the function is. So this is why it's more efficient and a lot clearer to somebody who might be reading your code to do. So on line 3, we declare a function and we give it a name. So this is our line 3 to 6 actually. So we declare a function called divide by 3, which I guess in JavaScript you also call it is a variable. And then I'm guessing that means it returns a number, or yeah, I think that's what it means, so we will see hopefully. And in that function we declare a variable val, i.e. value, which is number divided by 3, so maybe whatever the input is, and then we print out val. So let's actually see if that's correct. Focus on line 4 and line 5. The code within the curly brackets is the code we want to use again and again, i.e. the bake instructions. Okay, so on line 12 we call the function by the name. Okay, so divide by 3 and a 6. So this is the function and we put in 6. Oh, so this is what it takes as input. So the function takes a number as input. And what we are doing here is calling this function called divide by 3 with an input of 6. So, okay. And then if the input is 6, then once we enter the function, val is going to be 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So that's going to print 2 to the screen if we save and submit. Line 4 declares a variable called val. Line 5 prints the value of that variable. On line 8 to 11 we explain that what calling a function means. So 8 to 11. Here it is called divide by 3. We tell the computer what number input it is, i.e. 6. Okay. The computer then runs the code inside the function. So on line 12, replace the 6 with any number and press save and submit code. Do this a few times to see the beauty of functions. So what would happen if we put, say, 10 there? Is it just going to print? Yeah, okay. So it prints 3.333, and then for some reason there's a 5 there. I have no idea why. All the other 3's make sense, the 5 doesn't make sense. But it's probably because of how long a number can be, or maybe or how many decimal places a number variable can have. But that doesn't matter because it's quite correct. So that's basically what the function does and how it works. So let's move on. Function syntax. So a function takes in inputs, does something with them, and produces an output. It doesn't always have to produce a visible output. It could just return an output which the user doesn't see straight away. Hopefully we will see something like that soon. So here's an example of a function. The function is called say hello, and what we do here is we get input as name, I guess, and what we print is hello and the name. So in case you wanted to say hello to somebody, you can easily do that by using the say hello function. So first we declare a function using var and then give it a name, say hello. The name should begin with a lowercase letter, and the convention is to use lower camel case, where each word except the first begins with a capital letter. I don't know why. Maybe it can interfere, or maybe it's just something how it's used. So then we use the function keyword to tell the computer that you are making a function. So we have variable say hello with the camel back, or whatever it's called, camel case, equals function, and I don't know what the name is. So the code in the parentheses is called the parameter. It's a placeholder word that we give a specific value when we call the function. Oh, so that is going to be what's required as input if you want to enter the function. If you don't enter that, it's probably going to give you a syntax error. So then write your block of reusable code between the curly brackets. Every line of code in this block must end with a semicolon. You can run this code by calling the function like this. So if your function is called say hello, and if you want to say hello to Emily, you just call the function say hello and put the parameter Emily inside. So what this is going to print is hello Emily, because the parameter that you've entered is stored under name, and it's Emily. Name equals Emily. So when you call this, when this line is executed, you print out hello plus and the name. And in this case, because the name is Emily, what gets printed out is hello Emily. So on line 11, call the greeting function and put in a name that you want the greeting function to include. So that's line 11. Call the greeting function, greeting, and I don't know, let's do Michael, because I can. Greeting Michael. Here we go. So, and then we need to save and continue. So great to see you, Michael. Cool, thank you, program. Let's move on. How does a function work? Let's break down exactly how a computer thinks when it sees the code for function. So we have a function something like this. Code, 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 more lines of code. So the variable keyword declares a variable named function name. The keyword function tells the computer that function name is a function and not something else. So it knows that it's not a variable, and it knows that it needs to execute some code and not just get something such as a number. Parameters go in the parentheses. The computer will look out for it in the code block. So the code block is the reusable code that is between the curly brackets. Each line of code inside the curly brackets must end with a semicolon. The entire function ends with a semicolon. To use the function, we call the function by just typing the function's name and putting a parameter value inside the parentheses after it. The computer will run the reusable code with the specific parameter value substituted into the code. Sometimes you might also see functions that don't require a parameter but still do something. That is also possible, I believe. I know it is possible in other languages, and I'm pretty sure it's also possible in JavaScript, because I don't see why not. So let's make a function that tells the world what you want to eat. Okay, I want to eat some pizza. So let's do pizza. Declare your function and call it food demand. So how we do that is doing var food demand. Oops, that's not how you spell demand. Equals function and the food. I don't know. Let's just call it that for now. So how do we do this? Let's just check again. Good. And then we have curly brackets and a semicolon there. Next, we need call the parameter anything you like. Okay, so we've done the food. We'll call it food because, okay, I guess we need to call it food, not the food, because that is the thing that is going to change each time we call the function. Your reusable block of code follow this. What? Your reusable block of code follows this. Surrounded with the right brackets, the code you want to repeat is this. That paragraph doesn't make sense, but I do understand that I need to just copy and paste that. So what we do here is we print out I want to eat and whatever the food is. I believe that you can also just do this and just ignore the whole thing. I don't know why they did that, but let's see. So call the function and put in a specific food you want. Let's delete that, and then we need to call food demand parentheses, and I want to eat some pizza. Actually, vegetarian pizza. There we go. I want to eat vegetarian pizza. Cool. So now we know how we can tell our computer that we want to eat some kind of food. But he can't do anything about it, which is quite sad. But oh well. Let's move on. Tying it all together. Why is the code organized like it is on lines 2 to 5? So those are lines 2 to 5. The computer can understand the code without such spacing, but it makes editing a lot easier and is best practice. That is why. Do I have to put a semicolon at the end of each line in the reusable block and at the end of the entire function? Yes, at the end of each line of code within the curly brackets, and after the entire function, after the curly brackets, please put the semicolon. The semicolon acts like a period in a sentence. It helps the computer know where there are stopping points in the code. Period meaning full stop or dot, whatever you want to call it. A big part of programming is debugging. That just means figuring out what the heck went wrong with your code. Why didn't it run? So look at line 9. This is line 9. It has many syntax errors. See how lack of spacing makes debugging hard. Fix the function on line 9. Make sure the syntax is right. Make sure it looks nice. So greeting var what? Why is greeting? What's greeting doing there? So I think it's supposed to be var greeting equals function, not function, and instead of those brackets it should be parentheses, and then these need to be curly brackets, and those, oops, I don't like it like that, I want it to be like that. And we need to do console.log, and we need to print out the name. So call the greeting function once it is fixed. Don't forget to pass in a specific name. So that's what I didn't do. Let's see if this is going to work now. Let's do Jane, because that's the first name that popped into my head, and now it works. So yeah, debugging can be more difficult if you don't organize your code. That's why you should organize your code as you write it. Otherwise, if you see a syntax error, you might not be able to fix it as quickly as you otherwise might have been able to fix it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, click the dislike button and tell me in the comments down below why you didn't like it so that I can improve for next time. Also, if you have any questions to ask, feel free to ask in the comments down below. I will be answering them as soon as possible. So until next time, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.